Active versus passive voice. Which one do we use? Well, active voice, we have a subject which is doing the action, and in passive voice, something is being done to the subject. So what do we have here? We've got a verb, was prepared. Was is the past tense of be, to be, and prepared is the participle form, past participle form. And apple strudel is our subject. The apple strudel isn't doing anything. It's just being prepared by Julia Childs, who in fact in this case is the agent, and we have what is called a passive voice. The agent is acting on the apple strudel, the subject. Now here is the active voice, where we take our agent and we make the agent the subject. And Julia Child now is preparing what now is the object, the strudel, the apple strudel. And the subject is doing the action. We now have the active voice. We've reversed the direction. Let's go ahead and diagram it and see if it looks any different. We'll just call it strudel. Was prepared is our verb. The apple strudel. And it was prepared by Julia Childs, and by Julia Child in a preposition, prepositional phrase. The preposition is by, and Julia Child is the object of the preposition. Now that word by is one of the clues that you're in the passive voice. Not all the times, because quite often the agent doesn't show up, as we'll see in one of the next examples. But yeah, if you see the word by, and then if you can see a be verb followed by the past participle form of another verb, and the word by, you've probably got a passive voice. Now in the active voice, Julia Child is the subject, and she prepared the object, the strudel. She's doing the action. When the subject's doing the action, you have the active voice. Let's look at another one. From time to time, I have been given sage advice. Active or passive? Well, let's look at our verbs. We have a form of the verb to be, been, which is the perfect form of the verb. And we have a participle form of the main verb, given. We have a third one thrown in here, which doesn't really affect active or passive. It's a helping verb, to have. But at this point, you would get suspicious. However, you don't see the word by there yet, do you? Well, if the agent isn't important, you can just leave it out. But if you're trying to determine, am I in the active or passive voice, well, you might want to just throw somebody in there. From time to time, I have been given sage advice by someone, by my friend. And if you can do that, then you are probably in the passive voice. So my friend is understood as being the agent in this case, and the agent is, again, acting on the subject. Now, advice is a concept and another noun there. In this case, advice is the direct object in the sentence. Now, let's see what the sentence would look like in the active voice. Well, we're going to take the agent and make the agent now the subject. So we have, from time to time, my friend has given me sage advice. Notice it's shorter, it's more direct, it's clearer. That's why it's often suggested that it should always be writing in the active voice, although there are some very good reasons, which we'll talk about in another video, to use the passive voice. We're on standardized tests. What they often are looking for is to see if you know whether you're in the active or passive voice, and that you choose the active voice over the passive voice in the multiple choice kind of questions. Okay, so the friend is the subject, has given, that's simpler by one word, the verb is, and the friend is now the subject and doing the acting, or doing the action, in this case giving advice. Another lovely light bulb. And in this form of the sentence, me is the direct, or the indirect object. So advice is the direct object, me is the indirect object. So let's go ahead and diagram this. See if it looks any different. First sentence, I is the subject. We have a 3-word verb, have been given, and one of those verbs is a be verb and the other is a participle form of the verb using either en or ed at the end. And advice is the direct object. So that's the important part of the sentence. I have been given advice. By the agent, my friend. And from time to time as an introductory phrase, an adverbial phrase, and it's modifying. Our 3 verbs have been given. From time, prepositional phrase. To time, another prepositional phrase. So that's the passive voice. And now the active voice. Now, what was the agent has been reversed and has become the subject. The verb has given, simpler by one word. And there's no be verb there. Again, advice is the direct object. The advice was given to me. Tell me where it went. And again, our from time to time, combination of prepositional phrases, both of which are functioning adverbally, modifying the verb. And we'll look at one more. You see this one all the time. The meeting will be held. Notice the be verb and the participle, held. And will is thrown in there to throw it into the future, so another helping verb, which doesn't have anything to do necessarily with the passive or active voice. But be verb, followed by a participle, and often followed by the word by. If we're not sure if we're in the active or passive, we can throw by in there in a moment. The meeting, which is a concept. That's a little better, light bulb. So, yeah, just to check it out as a test, we'll throw in by the board of directors, by someone. The meeting will be held at 7 o'clock by the board of directors. So the board of directors is an unstated agent. Now we're putting the meeting in charge, and we're just going to flat out say the meeting is at 7. Is a be verb, but there is no past participle. Much more direct, clearer, and shorter. The major advantage of the active voice. Now we could throw in, if we're not sure, we could throw in by the board of directors, but it doesn't work in this case. The meeting is at 7 o'clock by the board of directors. The meeting simply is. I'll quickly diagram it and see if that throws any more light on passive versus active. In the first case, the meeting is the subject. 3-word verb, will be held. A be verb and a past participle. When will be held? At 7 o'clock. And then our assumed by the board of directors. In case the preposition is functioning as an adjective, modifying the board. Okay, now in the active case, the meeting again is the subject. The meeting just is.